If you know me, you know this podcast has been a long time coming. Welcome to Don't Shoot the Villain, where we challenge narratives, counterculture, and have very edifying conversations. I have been wanting to start this podcast for months. I came up with the name about 3 months ago, Don't Shoot the Villain, because I noticed that naturally when you counterculture, you think differently. And I've been this way since a very young child. I ask the difficult questions. I don't care to be the only one on the table saying something different to my peers. I've walked alone for quite a while, so I was always the bad guy. And even if I wasn't the bad guy, even if I was liked by people, they liked when I could make an honest criticism of someone else or I could say something. But the minute my criticism or what I thought, the truth came out concerning them, they didn't like me. Then I was villainized. Then I was the bad guy. Then you're too mean. You know, people can handle the truth until it is about them. So obviously, don't shoot the villain is a play on the words don't shoot the messenger. In history, when someone was delivering a message and it was unfavorable, people would attack the messenger, even though the messenger's just doing their job, you know? But I wanted to change it to villain because I also think when you think of a villain, as I've evolved, and maybe in this podcast there'll be time to reveal more about this topic, which is about the inversion of society. A lot of people that are villainized characters, even if you want to take it to like the Bible, Lucifer, when you like read these people objectively without the bias of being a Christian or the bias of just loving the hero, whatever it is, you realize that these villains were justified. You realize that these villains aren't actually as bad as they're made out to be. I think society is very inverted. And so it glamorizes things and supports and platforms things and people that aren't actually as good as they're marketed to be. And then even if we want to take it to us as black people, we are demonized, we are villainized. But if people took the time to understand this, that's why you hear when some white people, they're like, oh, until I started to have black friends, be around black people, I realized that you're not this big bad wolf that people make you out to be. And so the hope is that initially, certain things I may say, you may be like, oh, but you understand that my heart is in the right place. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can just click off. It's as simple as that. But it's an it's a hope that you would take the time out to really listen and hear where I'm coming from, hear my perspective, and not just jump to villainizing me. I think the villain is also reflective of the shadow side of humanity. So there's that duality. There's the good and there's the bad. There's the light and there's the dark, right? And I think we embrace our light. We don't always embrace the shadow sides, the uncomfortable conversations, the more unpopular taboo discussions. And I think the villain is a great archetype because it also represents embracing the aspects of us that maybe society will not always openly discuss. There's not much space for these conversations. Why did I decide to start? Um, I've always been someone who has been productive in thought and therefore in my reality. Your thoughts create your life, right? So I know I've been a blessing unto my peers. Their mothers have said I've been a blessing unto them. I know I'm a great mind. That I know. I can't even act humble about that. That's just and there's no need to be humble about that. I am who I am. And so I started this really to just again to counter culture, to challenge narratives. I don't see enough people with less bias speaking online. I see people with biases dominating the airways, people who have hate in their hearts, people who are really angry, people who are projecting a lot of their wounds. And we will get onto that later in today's topic. But I don't see many whole people, like people who are whole within themselves, secure within themselves, speak. And so therefore there's a lot of negative influences online, and there's so many young people. And my thing is that if we want a world that is better, you have to stand for something. You have to speak up. You have to counterculture, go against the grain. Don't be afraid to be disliked. Don't be afraid for the pushback, because it would be disappointing to bring my children into a world and I can't even speak for the world I want them to be. And it would be disappointing to watch my sister grow up in a world that I'm not at peace with, And again, this is not me saying I can change everything. Honey, Rome was not built in a day. Certainly not me, myself, and I, but at least to push the culture in a more positive direction. I think that's a good thing. I think all of us should be aspiring that. All of us should be aspiring to be more outspoken, to stand on truth, even if it means you stand alone. And so I just hope that in these conversations I'm having, it liberates people to be more honest. It liberates people to stand on truth. It liberates people to question things, to not be blind leaders. I want more people to be self-led. I want more people to stand firm in who they are, to even know who they are. I want people to block out the noise more. Who am I for? I am for those who are challenging their own narrative, those who are asking questions, those who need a space to just feel a bit more validated as well in having a difference of opinion. It's like everybody gets together and we're meant to be this monolith. I will never be that. Um, I truly do think who I'm for, again, with starting a podcast, I will see who I'm for. I will see who gravitates towards me the most. I will see how my work affects people. So it's really who's meant for me will be, who's meant to see this content and engage with it as a part of their journey in this world, they will find it. I'm not too static about that. Um, I just hope it reaches who it's meant to reach, and I hope it impacts who it's meant to impact. And above all, especially for the up and coming generation, the young ones coming up, the my demographic. I love the elders, the millennials, the Gen X. Everybody is welcome, but the impact and the change is truly with maybe the younger side of the millennials and the Gen Z, especially. I really want to see a shift. I don't see when I look at maybe just the UK scene, but I'm sure even on a wider scale, I don't really see many young people in the space like challenging things. It's just everyday vanity, popular culture. Like the conversations are, as they call it on TikTok, plantain topics. Like there's no depth. Our brains are fried from scrolling all day and growing up in an era of social media. It's damaging. And if we're gonna be the new parents, some of us already parents, then maybe it's time for a little reform, because I'm really terrified for a lot of these children growing up at the hands of a lot of these parents across the board. My hope is, especially because as someone as a young child, I didn't have certain guidance. I didn't have like someone in my ear to tell me certain things so that I could navigate life in a more productive way. And so I had to learn by going through certain things, and I had to learn the hard way. And so my hope is that at least if there's someone like me, there's a younger woman listening, or maybe someone older, but that they can have a moment to listen to someone else, and it can help them avoid pain, unnecessary pain. Because if they're wise enough, they will take the lessons here. They will learn from other people's mistakes, shortcomings. They will hear from other people, and it can edify them. There's so much toxic advice and toxic conversations happening online that is leading young girls and young boys astray. And so if honestly the people we can impact the most are the youth, the young ones coming up. That's why I'm gonna try my best not to cuss. I'm gonna try my best. I'm not the best and I apologize in advance, but I will try my best to keep it PG. Um because I really would like young people coming up to be able to have productive conversations. But truly, I'm for anyone and anyone who is seeking truth and challenging narrative and countering cultures. honey, you are welcome. Because we're all healing, we're all doing the work. We're all doing what I hope we are. Now there is a sub name to "Don't Shoot the Villain." There's also like a subsection or called Mother's Philosophy. Because I've always been the mother. My friendship groups, I've mothered people in my family. I'm just a mother. I'm just a mother. Like that's me. I don't need kids to be a mother. And philosophy, when you understand the Greek breakdown of it, it's love of wisdom. And so it's a mother's love of wisdom. It's really that heart. When I say why do I do this, it's that heart to really help and impact and fill in a gap that I know so many people have. People think a mother's love or love should just be baking cookies, giving hugs. Love sometimes is the tough conversations, it's uncomfortable, it's challenging people in ways they've probably not been challenged before. So it's really, yeah, it's a mother's heart that makes me, I think, do this and care and consider us because, if I just help the few people I help, then that's a blessing. That's a blessing. I don't think what's been deposited inside of me, the thoughts I think, the way I am as a person is in vain. And so that's why ultimately this podcast has started because I don't think it's in vain. It's taken me a while to believe in myself and to show up online because I was just like, I don't like this online world. It's creepy, it's weird, people are strange, but it's a necessary evil. There's so much love you can also get. There's so much um it's such an impactful place. If you don't know, my history is in social media management. My work is in social media marketing. So I've had a career of growing brands, seeing people and businesses change completely because of social media. I know its power and I know the good of it. I also know the toxic side of it. Um, but to be able to be a light and to help people, I think it does make it all worth it. Also, especially because the podcasting thing, like you see those memes on TikTok, like we need to raise the prices of podcast mics. I don't even have a mic, but like for me, it was that thing of people. I don't even like the sound of my own voice, believe it or not. Believe it or not, I don't even like the sound of my own voice because I don't. I'm someone who, and I think that will be more clear as more episodes are pushed and people really get to understand my content. I'm not trying to, I think everybody's journey is so unique to them. And people need to honor that. And people need to be self led. That I don't want to, my goal isn't to impose or it's not out of an ego. I think a lot of people pick up mics because they have an ego, because they think they know the way. And let me make it clear, my work is not to say I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am road opening work. I am simply clearing the road. We're having the conversations that clear the road. I want people who have great minds. I want people who we can agree to disagree and we don't get offended by the difference of opinion. Like that weak stuff that a lot of people be on, I don't want to be on that. People can't even have honest conversations and everybody has to see it the same way. It's unhealthy, it's dishonest. Life is filled with diversity in nature and in humans. I'm not going to sit here and say we all need to think the same thing or have the same life or follow the same program. That's dishonest, it's disingenuous, and it's not pragmatic. And I really do live in the real world. I'm a spiritual babe, but I live in the real world. So yeah, we're just trying to clear the way for new thoughts, for evolution, for better humans, better relationships, friendships, family, career. Like it's just about ultimately personal development. But there's not there's not a formula to life. And that's why I think humans are constantly seeking out this one way, this one solution. And it's like there isn't one. There isn't one. That's a lie. The only thing I can say that's closest to the solution is just the appreciation of truth. If you can really dig deep within yourself and be honest, truth is probably the best compass in all of this. But apart from that, everybody is so different. Life is so different that it would be wrong for us to say that there is this one way of living life right. Not sure about that. So yeah, I'm very excited for this podcast and I'm so grateful for this space I'm building, this community. And if you do want to support beyond subscribing to my YouTube and all of those things, following me on socials, then definitely get in the Patreon. I'm super excited because there's also exclusive episodes that will be dropping, and behind the scenes content. That's where, the real community will be built. Because sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not even on socials like that. Like, I post and I ghost in a way because there's too many bot accounts and people commenting behind fake profiles and stuff like that. It's like, but if I know someone's in a Patreon, they paid to be here, then they have my attention, then I'm gonna engage with them. And you can really kind of verify people. It's more honest. So I prefer that to just any random person having access to me. Some people, I'll get into that because social media, that's a whole podcast episode in itself. It is such a strange place. And most people don't realize that because most people aren't the minority who are actually creating the content. You're just on the consumption side. So you don't see it how we see it. It's absolutely mad. But yeah, the Patreon is a beautiful space, a beautiful community. So do definitely join. Today's topic is called Evolving Beyond the Wound. I think this is a beautiful place to start at the genesis of this conversation or this podcast, should I say. It's the best time to start about something that it's the best time to, start with something that is kind of a running theme, no matter where you go in this world, like with the different people you meet. We are dealing with a lot of fractured individuals, a lot of people who are not whole, a lot of adults who are truly just wounded children in adult bodies. And so they are projecting and they're even creating these ministries, these red pill content or hypergamous radical feminist content, and everybody's drawing to these extremes purely as a product of unresolved childhood trauma or teen trauma or early adult trauma. People are in pain, people are hurt, people don't know how to work through their pain. And it would be one thing if they kept it to their damn selves, but humans, we have to project, don't we? We just have to let everyone know what's going on internally. um So I thought this would be a good place. My inspiration was purely just the observation of this world, my observation of human behavior. And it's like, I'm always curious about what is the driving force? What makes people treat people badly? Why are people doing this? Not to excuse it, but I just want to know the reasoning. Why do people do what they do? And even when people aren't treating people badly, but even seeing people not amount to their full potential, become who they could have become. They want to do these things, but things are holding them back within themselves. They're not fully self-actualizing. Like, they're stunted, they're capped, they're limited, even though there's not a ceiling. I can't see a ceiling, but they've put a ceiling on themselves. So I want to start a bit with me, my story. Because if anyone knows trauma, I don't look like what I've been through. And that's why I am very qualified to speak on this subject matter. And that's why it's really a blessing that, you know, for the first time in my life, I can see the things I've gone through being full circle. And that's why this message is so meaningful to me. And I pray that it really touches who it needs to touch and edifies who it needs to edify, right? In summary, because I'm not going to go into every detail, we don't have time for that. But, I grew up in a single mother household. Um, there was unfortunately quite a bit of neglect. I suffered and a lot of pain in certain ways. There's also trauma with my brother, which is a whole nother story. Someone I was super close with for so many years. And there was neglect on his behalf as well in terms of our relationship as my older brother. He kind of walked out, reverted to Islam, and then lost his mind. It's a long story, but um, I lost my brother. My relationship with my parents is quite fractured, if I'm being honest with you, because of the neglect. Because I think unfortunately, in a lot of these African cultures, people just have kids for the sake of having kids. There's not really a thought process into why am I having kids? What do I want to teach them? How am I raising them? Like everything that I am is truly self-made. I'm not saying my parents haven't helped in certain things. I'm not trying to neglect the goodness of my parents because there's good within them both. But everything that I am, I put it on everything that is all on me. My brother has gone down a terrible path. He went into grifting. He's like, his life is over and he's still living. Do you know what I mean? Like someone, he just failed himself completely. He's turned into some weird incel. From my mother's home, I got into marketing. I built my business. I got clientele. I moved to London. I pushed on with my life. I didn't care. I didn't have any guidance, any support, but I still chose to push forward. I've fallen on my face so many times. I've gotten up and I've kept going. When I was 16, I was raped. Can't believe I'm saying this for the first time since I was 18. I haven't said this publicly since I was 18, but yeah. When I was 7, I was assaulted by an uncle. I've gone through certain things in my life that are very hard for most people to come back from. And that's why I hope that the work I do goes far because I know what these wounds do and I know that they are hard to come back from. Especially when you turn to the left and the right, people, one of the most irritating things for me growing up was you hear people say, well, speak to somebody. Let people know what you've gone through. Let people know, like, so they can help you. I went to the church concerning matters in the home, concerning matters outside of the home. I actually was met with more abuse in these institutions. More abuse. I was groomed by my youth mentor. I was told by another youth leader that when I told them about something that was happening in the home, they were like, make sure you're right, though. You don't want to accuse a man of doing something they're not doing. I was neglected. Then there was spiritual abuse that was happening in the church, people abusing their positions of power. And, a lot of other things in the midst of that. Unfortunately, I didn't also have the best of friends in all of this. Just a lot of users and leeches. Because I didn't see myself. But they saw me. People just took. I finally reclaimed self, and that's why I can speak. But for a long time, I just did not understand my life. I didn't understand my journey. I didn't understand why I was going through so many things in my life. Like, it was 9 years, from the age of 14, 15, my mother remarried my stepdad, to probably just this year, I feel like I'm finally coming out of whatever that funky, stinky, stanky period of my life was, where I just felt like I can't catch a break. I can't rest. Then you're dating guys and, you've grown up believing, okay, men are these providers and protectors and they're saying you're a wifey, but they're not wifing you. In fact, this is how disgusting the culture is. They're saying you're young, you should have fun. I'm saying I want commitment. I'm saying I don't want to be out here. And you're saying, no, you should go out though. Even though you're a wifey, I'm not trying to cover you. I don't have time for that. I was like, oh, this is ghetto as hell. So you're broken, you're wounded, you have your parental wounds, church wounds, and I've had I should have boils all over my skin right now, darling, but it's glistening and it's cocoa butter essence. I'm blessed. I'm so blessed. But yeah, it took a lot of chaos to be this calm. Oh, I'm truly a lone wolf. I think I am the black sheep of my family. Yeah, it's a long story. It's all long stories. And we all have a story. I don't think I'm special. But I've seen that women have gone through even a fraction of what I've been through. Men who have gone through a fraction of what I've gone through. Or maybe the same, or maybe worse. But I've seen how people have not been able to navigate out of that. And for some reason, I have had the gift from a young age to be able to think my way through life despite its hardship, despite feeling like everything was against me. I've still been able to maneuver life in a very productive way. And that's why I feel like this message is so meaningful. This is such a full circle moment. I can't even begin to explain. I speak about the story, not just about my own wounds, but even just seeing in family. One thing I said about myself, I know they want to say every woman is emotional and all these men are logical. You have a choice concerning who you want to be, how you want to live. For me, I saw what being an emotional woman did to people in my family, to people around me, the decision making, and how poor it was. And I said, I'm not going to be emotional like that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time. Like being that emotional is going to lead me to a grave. Even if I'm still breathing and I'm still walking and talking, I would be dead. So I have chosen logic in times and places when women would have chosen their emotions and people would have chosen their emotions, to be honest, as a product of their trauma. So, the culture, it says, heal. You've gone through things, healing. I'm in my healing era. Everyone's healing, 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 right? What is it to heal? What does that actually look like? The two most common methods I hear when it comes to healing is one, therapy, two, God, a form of spirituality, right? Typically Abrahamic religions. I think therapy ultimately is about introspection. And I think the notion of God, remember, as I said, I went to the church when I'd gone through things and I was processing it. And I did find some rest in the idea of a savior and, take my yoke because it's lighter. I did find some solace, some rest in it all. But then I deconstructed because I left religion years later. And that healing, that peace kind of also left with it. Because now I was like, the sufferings of this present time aren't necessarily purpose. Like people suffer across the world. What's the purpose of that? Some child has just watched their mother be shot and killed in the Congo, and then their life is probably going to be pretty bleak after that until death. This romanticizing of our suffering is pointless. I don't want to do that anymore. So now I'm like, okay, so I just got abused and mistreated and neglected for what? I'm like, well, why'd I go through this? What the hell? And truly, I don't think there needs to be an answer. One of the things I said when I left religion is I'm going to get comfortable in saying I don't know. I'm going to get very comfortable in saying I don't know. I don't think I always need an answer to everything. I don't think so. I don't feel that pull anymore towards an answer. If some things are open, what the answer is to me is different to you. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just our realities are different. Our purposes, our livelihoods are different. And that's why, again, when it comes to trauma, pain is subject to your understanding of it, to your purpose, your understanding of self. I want to start by saying life is what you make it. There's a pen in my hand right now for those who are just listening. You are the author of your life. No one can tell you how to deal with your pain. But I also want to empower you by saying you can tell yourself how to deal with your pain. I think there's this assumption. It's like this bot-like behavior of, because I went through this, now I'm going to behave like this. And now I'm going to do all of these reckless things and walk down such a negative path. Like it's almost a very cliche story. That's why you see so many movies with the same copy and paste storyline, like because it's all the same. And it's like, when are we going to evolve? That's why the topic is evolving beyond the wound. When do we choose differently from what we have seen? Oh, someone gets abused. Someone has a father wound. Someone has a mother wound, and then they go and treat people badly, treat the opposite sex badly because of what they went through. Like, when do we evolve beyond what we have known? That shows to me a clear problem when it comes to our processing system. How are you processing reality? And it's so unfortunate that schools don't teach us this. Schools don't teach you how to make sense of reality. And then you're coming from likely fractured individuals who came from fractured individuals, so they're not teaching you either. And so that's why one thing I want to make very clear in this conversation is there is a difference between intellectualizing and introspection. Intellectualizing is making logical sense of something that's happened to you. And if you are not careful, even when you're talking to other people, you will see that it can sound like they're introspective. But I'm telling you, introspection is completely different because you are looking within yourself to see what your motives, your feelings, what, like, the driving force behind your behavior. What's good about you? What's bad about you? It's a very honest look in the mirror that a lot of people can avoid through intellectualizing their experience. Trauma is under your jurisdiction. What I just said about it's up to you how you deal with your trauma. Believe it or not, with traumas that, aren't necessarily physical on the body, it's actually quite a neutral thing. We attach the emotions and the feelings and what we relate it to, and we make it negative or positive or whatever. That's why I'm saying you don't. It's not a static thing. I think a lot of people think, okay, they've gone through this wound, and then it's like they become frozen in it. They become stuck in it. They don't realize that you can change, you can alchemize this, you can evolve beyond this. You're not chained to anything. There's nothing holding you back. You're not damned. And it's so unfortunate how many people again are living in a place of stagnate, like they're stagnant within their reality. They're not being who they're called to be because they've let their trauma really reduce them. When I say trauma is under your jurisdiction, I'm saying it is your choice. It is your personal sovereignty, right? That allows you to make something positive out of something negative. When I was young in school, I remember I was going through things, and in I believe it was chemistry. There was a class about function machines, and it was about how something can go in negative and come out positive. It's been a while, so it's old, but I just remember that concept. And I remember 15 years old thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Whatever's negative, it's going to go in this function machine and it's going to come out positive. Years later, I know that term to be alchemy. Years later, I understand that to be transmuting energy, making something into something else. But this is for the good of you. My pain allows me to love. My pain allows me to speak, to serve, to edify. My pain is actually one of the best parts of me. I can say that today. Pain is a blessing. Pain is productive if you allow it to be. You are not damned. I just have to keep repeating that because I think somebody needs to hear that you are not damned by what you've gone through. You can observe it, you can feel it, and you can transmute it, and it can become something more productive. It doesn't have to be. And the reason you may be like, she's being a bit vague, is because, again, I'm always like, everybody's journey is so different that it's not a one size fits all. There isn't a formula in terms of how that would look for you, how it would, what good it would produce in you. That's for you to take a good look in the mirror. This is all very introspective work. So to think you can externalize your healing process is extremely backwards, because it's the antithesis of what healing is. It's so deeply personal. It's so deeply intimate. People can serve as guides, but you are the author. You hold this pen. No one else does. And don't outsource that. Don't outsource your sovereignty. Don't outsource your autonomy in this life to anybody else or to any deity, matter of fact. No shade, no tea. No shade, no tea. Whilst this is me saying whilst I am here to, I don't want this conversation to be mistaken as minimizing your trauma. And again, if you've gone through some real stuff and you need to consult with a doctor or whatever, do that. That's all part of your process, your journey. I'm not here to tell you to minimize your trauma, but I'm just saying don't give it arms, legs, and a mind of its own to do whatever it wants, to rule you. Now, because you were abused, you now live a life of super promiscuity and you're hypersexual. And even though you know that's not what you want, even though you know you want love, And I think I just get, again, so angry because then this gets pushed into mainstream culture and it's being fed into the minds of such young people. We're seeing a product of trauma. The song by Young Miami, Spender, yeah, it's evidently a product of trauma. It's evidently a product of trauma to even get to this. Like, we're glorifying such degeneracy. This is all trauma that hasn't been worked through. And so you're now pushing very negative ideas into mainstream. And that's why you even see dysfunction being the forefront of popular culture. Why is that? It's because no one's working through their trauma. Everyone's being ruled by it, but everybody's ignoring it. Everyone's acting like it's not as deep, or I am who I am. There's this defensiveness, these walls built up about it. And then these really false ministries being pushed out that are toxic and breaking down families and breaking down individuals and breaking down children, not even giving them a chance because you don't want to do the work. So I'm also encouraging, because when you do the work, it's both selfless and selfish. It serves you, and it also serves so many other people. I always say, to be selfless, you have to be selfish first. You can't pour from an empty cup. So when we talk about healing, bringing it right back to that, evolution is healing. And I think particularly, especially amongst Black people, that is such a needed message, because a lot of us are very regressive in thought. My next episode is going to be about how we are mentally getting off to the past or the alleged future in heaven. We are not living in the present. So therefore, we are not evolving. Now, again, evolution looks different for every single person, but it is evident when someone is evolving. It's evident. Evolving beyond your experiences, beyond what you've gone through, beyond what you have seen, taking all of these aspects of you. And one thing I want to say is that you're not any less. I think there's this, especially unfortunately, in some of these really toxic online spaces presented as truth. They try to make out that a woman is less, that a man is less because they've gone through certain things, especially pertaining to sexual relations, whether it's consensual or non-consensual. They try to devalue humans. Your journey is yours. You should never give anyone that level of power to take from you, to make you feel like you are less than because of a life, because of the cards you were dealt. It doesn't even make sense. Because of the road you have traveled. A lot of us are coming from such a deficit. Like, for me, I can say I was coming from a minus. Not even just zero, not even just 1 or 2, a minus, a serious deficit. A lot of us have been coming from such a deficit that it makes no sense to point a finger and not realize one points back at us. We should all be very humble. We should all be mindful in the way. I'm not saying, look, I'm a judge. I'm not against judgment, but it's a lot of it is not coming from a righteous place. It's coming out of insecurity. It's coming out of mean-spiritedness. It's dishonest. It's disingenuous above all things. It's picking and choosing. And I think people need to, this is why I'm saying, again, it's about really standing in who you are, seeing yourself as whole. All of these parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, that is all a part of you. And one isn't necessarily less than the other. Again, you have that pen. You get to decide what it does for you, how it affects you, how it offends you. I remember growing up in church, and when I went through what I went through in the church, that was one of the biggest topics of, oh, don't be offended. The devil is trying to allow you to be offended so you leave the faith. And whilst I think that was some toxic nonsense, because, if people are being abusive in a church, you should be dealing with that. You shouldn't be trying to, instead of trying to resolve what's going on with me, you should be dealing with them. But anyway, there is still a wisdom to mind your offenses, mind what you allow to offend you. Because one thing I can say is, when you are offended, it's hard to resolve. You gotta guard your heart going forward. And unfortunately, the thing I've noticed with people who've gone through trauma, That's why there's that perpetual victimhood that is birthed, because you just kind of keep repeating the cycle because you don't know how to evolve beyond it. Because no one ever told you could. Think about it. We come into this world and we're taught we're born sinners. We're taught we're less than. We're taught we're a wretch saved by grace or whatnot. We devalue ourselves from birth. And then, so the idea that then you can go through more pain, which is going to make you feel even more less, then societal norms and culture is going to judge you. People are going to judge you in the family. Religion's going to judge you. And then the thought that I could overcome this, oh, this doesn't actually define me or rule me. A lot of it is mind over matter. A lot of it is, that's why they're really, the biggest attack is on our mind. The biggest attack is not physical at all. It's the attack on our mind, because what you believe really does affect your reality quite directly. And that's why I'll always be big on challenge your narrative, challenge the way you're thinking. To evolve is to think differently. To evolve is to ask questions. To evolve is to go into the places of yourself that you typically avoid. To evolve is to listen to a different perspective without your bias, without your natural inclination and your defensiveness. To evolve is basically to go against the grain of self, of your ego, of all the things that can limit you if they are in excess. Your ego, your emotions, in excess, they limit you. There is so much on the other side of pain. And pain can actually be such a powerful tool in a lot of our arsenals, because a lot of us have so much of it that if we are to alchemize it and turn it into something so beautiful, so great, I think it could absolutely change the trajectory of your own personal life in whatever way you want it to, but also those around you. And so, in closing, my hope and my prayer is that, above all, number one, that we heal from things, meaning we evolve. And a big part of that being also acceptance, making peace with your reality. Stop trying to lie to yourself, ignore, act like it wasn't what it was. Feel things, be honest. Allow yourself to grieve aspects of you or grieve realities that you dealt with. Don't be dishonest with yourself. But my prayer is that, yeah, we do heal from a lot of the things that most of us don't even have the strength and the courage to speak about. There is so much to my story that I don't have the full strength to probably speak about and not get emotional and feel. And maybe that will be like that till the end of time. There's parts of my story that, yeah, I keep to myself. There's parts of my story that my brain forgets because I've gone through so much that my brain just like filters a lot of things out. But most importantly, I'm here today and I don't look like what I've been through, and I don't behave. Because most importantly, a lot of people can put on the makeup and the dresses and the nice shoes and the nice chains, and you'll think it's been rosies for them and dandies and all of this beautiful stuff. But behind closed doors, these people are really suffering. So the most important thing is not just that I don't look like what I've been through, but I don't act like it. And this is verified and confirmed. And so my prayer is that, yeah, we all get to a place of just more, there's more evolution. We're more at peace with ourselves. We appreciate our journeys, and that we're not governed by our pain, that it doesn't rule over us in such negative ways that we are producing very negative outcomes. This is the end of the podcast. Well, today's episode, to be specific. And I hope it has been edifying. I hope it has been a great introduction to the work we're going to be doing here today and forevermore. As long as I'm breathing, I hope to always be a blessing unto others. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Stay blessed.